So I'd like to ask the king to speak to those people who understand the Han mother's mistake, but are sort of floating around and wandering without any place to go, like my son.
Yeah, I mean, I think you have to realize that there are central figures in providence, that which providence moves through. Now, it is the common conception of people is to want to believe that they're the central figure when they're not. Do you see what I mean? So this is the problem with idolatry, is that you want to believe that you are the center. And then if only you reach perfection, well, then you don't need God's kingship, you don't need his kingdom, you don't need the Messiah, you don't need God. That is separating yourself from God's blessing. If you do that, and it's your choice, you can do that. I don't even know if that's what he means, but anyways, just to clarify that. What the Han mother does, she's not just like any other woman, you understand, in providence. She's not just like any other person because she held a central role in providence. Okay, and divine principle speaks to that as well. Central figures.
They know mother is wrong.
Oh yeah, no, I understand. Central figures, when they fail their responsibility, they create catastrophic consequence for the world. That's because they're chosen to be in a central position. Okay? Now, when you try to hold on to scriptures that say, oh, you can be perfect, and so thus you believe you can be a central figure, I don't know if that's what he's saying or not, but anyways, some people can go to that conclusion. But it's a foolish, and it's a conclusion that's archangelic. Because you're leaving the center of providence, which will not be you. The center of providence will be true Father through his kingship, through time in an actual kingdom. That's the problem with people not, that don't understand a Christian worldview, or do not come from a Christian perspective. Because this is what a lot of Japanese members will suffer with, Asian members who don't come Christian background. You will suffer from this. You have to understand the centrality of Christ. Without Christ, you are nothing. You are only dirty rags. You are only a sinner before God. Even though you did all the perfect deeds and all the Buddhist prayers and all the Shinto prayers, and you lived, quote, humanly possibly the closest perfect lives that you've done, being 10 times greater than Mother Teresa, you're still total dirty sinfulness before God. Because you're still filled with selfish thoughts. You're still lying as you try to worship yourself. You're still stealing from God's glory and robbing of his glory, taking it for yourself. So you are a greater sinner. This is a problem with the Pharisees. They were like those who didn't, of many religions, who believe they can earn by their merit salvation. And this is the big difference between all the religions on one side and Christian religion. This is the huge difference. All religions say, if you do good things, you can get good things. Okay, if you do good things, you can get good things like salvation. You can get into heaven, or you can get into liberation or moksha. You can, but it's all based on it's all based on your actions. It's solely based on you. That's all religions say that. Now, if you don't understand why the kingship is, why Father established kingship, I would say you're still under the realm of fallen religion. Because you do not understand the centrality of Christ. You do not have a Christian worldview, which is the reason why you don't understand why the kingship is critical, and why your individual perfection is not going to be found outside of God's providence and God's intergenerational kingdom and kingship, which he himself established. It's the arrogance of man to want to be the center. But we don't get to choose where the center is. The center is where God chooses to be. Just like I didn't get to choose to be the center. God made me the center, not because I want it, because I have to do it. I did not choose this. Do you see? This is the difference between all pagan religion, where it's merit-based. You are working for your salvation. You clean yourself. And Christianity, which tells you the reality. Even Mother Teresa, without Christ, she is a sinner. You could have done all the good works, build 100 orphanages. You're still selfish. You're still doing politics. You're still stealing from God's glory. If you're not giving the one who actually deserves the glory, who gave you life, who gave you breath, all that. Your perfection aside from God means nothing. It's all it is. The Pharisees thought they were perfect too. They thought they had the word of God. They thought they had the word of Moses. What was the problem? They didn't serve Jesus, who was the living temple, who was the living Christ, the living embodiment of God, and did not surrender to him. You see? So Father left you his word, yes, but he also left you his body. He left you me. He left you my son Shinjun, whom he chose. You are not in Father's authority just because you read his words. Family fraud reads his words. You are under Father's authority because you are in the line of providence, which Father himself established. I did not establish it. He established it. Do you understand? That's why the kingship is essential, because it is your way to attend true Father through the generations, through the kings of Chanyugu that come directly from the King of Kings. Your rights coming from the Constitution don't come there because you perfected yourself over 6 years and you are some kind of Buddha. They come because Christ suffered for all humanity, bled, and walked the path of 10,000 crosses to give you grace and establish his kingdom and his kingship, which then protects your rights that you receive. You have not earned these rights. You have not done good deeds to merit these things. They're given to you by God, not because you're great, but because he's great. You see, this is the difference. So you have to understand the difference between all religion, that's Buddhism, Shintoism, and you come from different cultures, so you may have an understanding of religion and faith based on that culture. But you have to separate yourself from that culture because it's not God's culture. You cannot go to heaven just because you read Father's words. Do you know the devil reads Father's words? Do you know the family fraud has 3 heretical books that they say it's Father's words, and they think they're reading Father's words? But they will not be allowed into Father's kingdom or his house. Do you understand? Just because you read Father's word doesn't mean you get into his house. Big difference. Father didn't only leave you the word. He left you his physical kingship line, of which I am only the second king, but there will be many, many beyond me. And that is each generation's direct physical connection to the King of Kings. The center of all of the kingdom, of all the world, of all the universe, of all God's intention and purpose of creation. Who is Christ? You see, in Christianity, you are nothing without Christ. I am nothing without Christ. In Buddhism, Shintoism, in other pagan religions, you can be anything. You can be greater than a god. You can become a god. You can become perfect. So I think a lot of our Asian brothers and sisters who come from a non-Christian background, your idea of perfection is more Buddhist or Shinto in nature. So you have to be aware of that, because that is not biblical. You see? So really your perfection in yourself being cleansed through 6th generation, it's not of importance. The importance is God's kingdom and the lineage and the center of how providence moves, and moving with God's providence intergenerationally with your bloodlines. I don't know if that, anyways, I didn't understand exactly the nuance of his questions. I'm sure he didn't. But anyways, there's some people out there that, maybe taking it in a more radical way. That's why I'm kind of answering this way, not that he believes that or something. But does that make sense? Tim, does that make sense? Okay. Okay, go ahead.
If I say just short answer, along with what King said, they said like they're gonna study Father's words, and each cock group studies Father's words. Whatever sprinter group, they study Father's words, and then they say, whatever. But, when they truly believe true Father as a Messiah, and then His word is so precious, and what is most precious to Him? His appointment of His representative body on earth. 대신자, that's also His words, and that's His almost like a last words. So if you truly think a Father is a Messiah and you want to uphold His word, then that is the most important thing that to follow. So if they want to say, if I follow Father's words for 6 generations, then I will be perfect, then they are contradicting themselves in the end. So, we are very, Hyungjin, our second king always says he never chose this position, but it was given. And we really understand this position that we are in is not because of our merit, but just purely grace of God. And then, and that's our position. So we are not boasting that we are sitting here, what Father chose us, too bad he didn't choose you or whatever. We are not like that. But we truly want to uphold the Father's words on this earth together with you. That's why we are where we are.
And there is, there is 5% responsibility, right? I mean, Father gives me that responsibility. I have to do my 5%. I have to do my 4%. I have to come into agreement with that. Otherwise, I'll fail, and then Providence will move on. But it's the same thing. The Queen has to also do her responsibility. When the third king takes his place, same thing. So there is a portion of responsibility and free will. But again, if I understood your question correctly, the Kwak group says you don't need the 3 kingships. The Han Mother says you don't need the kingship, and you just need the word of true Father. Yet they're in the business of constantly redacting and choosing what the words they like. So then you're no different from the Kwak group, and so you're a heretic. So you will not be included in Father's house. You're the same as them then. If somebody was saying that. So it's absolutely, it's critical. It's like saying for the Jewish people, no, we don't need Jesus. We just have the word of Moses. You're doing the same thing. No, every Christian knows you absolutely need Jesus. Absolutely, you can't. It's not possible to go to God without Jesus. You need Jesus. And when Jesus establishes kingdom and Jesus establishes kingship, that is the kingship which He established. Physical on this earth, to be with His word. His word doesn't exist separate from that kingship. Can't separate them. It's not your choice. Father didn't make it that way. You can't choose to do so. If you do so, you're choosing to be heretic. That's your choice.